I've actually got my stick. Very, very hot. Very hot. So hopefully my arm won't ache as much as normal. Let's have a look. I'm a bit close up here. Let's have a look. So I'm back at my house. Been playing with my camper. Shall I take you with me to have a little look at it? 1967 split screen. And let's open the doors. It's a bit slight breeze, so they might swing shut. See, my kids' things are in here, and we like to go camping, but it's not so easy because my wife's a school teacher, so I'm just showing it you. And I wanted a 1967 because that's the year I was born. So I did post a video today. I found a 1970s concert, but quite an old sort of rare footage one. But I also found I think it's late 1955 interview with Elvis. Elvis being interviewed on a radio station, I think. So what I did, I got the interview and I broke it up into about 6 or 7 parts. There's Princess. She's a bit deaf and a bit blind. She likes it out here though, in the sun. So what I've done, I've got the 1950s interview, and then over the top of it, I've put the live footage of Elvis in concert. I have no idea where the concert is. So when you watch this, guys, go ahead and comment if you want where that concert is. And even the 1950s footage of him being interviewed, it's not footage, it's audio. I think it's the end of 1955 because he's quite famous, already world famous. But I don't think he's quite made his first film yet, which tells me it's 55, but you can put me right on that. I don't know who the interviewer is, but the reason I like that interview, and anything I find of Elvis, let me just try and work out his age. So where he's around 19, 20, 21, that sort of age, I think you still get a taste of how Elvis was, where fame hasn't really affected him. Not really. He's still the Elvis that grew up, not just in Mississippi, Tupelo, but also early Elvis in Memphis and Beale Street and that world. And I think you still get a sense of him where he's still excited that he's become famous. He can't believe he's become so famous. He's still trying to take it in and absorb the shock of the attention he's getting. And wherever he goes, crowds are gathering. There's loads of police put on patrol. And obviously the girls are screaming. And it's not a few hundred people, it's literally thousands. It's like a stampede wherever he goes. And obviously the early concerts that he did in Tupelo, etc. And I think he's still living the life, or trying to live the life that he lived pre-fame. And I really don't know why, I just really like that Elvis, because I feel like he's untainted. I think the Elvis that came back from Germany in 1960, obviously his mother had passed, he had met Priscilla, he thought that his career might be over, he was very concerned and just hoped that the Colonel was going to keep his career alive by slowly releasing records. But don't forget, you had the movie that they did allow him to finish. I'm not sure which movie that was, the one that they allowed him to finish. I'm trying to remember. Was it King Creole? I'm not sure, but they did let him finish a movie before he was properly drafted, I think, of the army. And there's loads of footage showing his train journey, coming back to meet probably the staff of Frank Sinatra so that he could go on the Welcome Home Frank Sinatra show, which obviously is extremely well known and famous, and there's loads of footage, and was a massive success. And don't forget, Frank and Elvis did have, it wasn't straightforward because Frank had said bad things. Okay, I lost you again. I'm still going to keep trying. So he's coming back on the train, and all the way along the train journey, there's thousands and thousands of fans waiting with hope of a glimpse of Elvis. And he's extremely friendly. And I think even on that train, there was some interviews that you can find now on YouTube. He does the show, which is a massive, massive success, which catapults him to even more fame and success. And also that show did change his image, because Colonel Tom Parker's idea was that he was going to come out a clean-cut American boy, not a rebel, and win over the hearts of the older generation. And he was going to show the generation that he wasn't a delinquent or a troublemaker, that he was a decent boy, a Christian boy. And it really worked. The plan of Elvis changing his image really worked and boosted, even though he was already extremely famous, I think even boosted his fame even more. And then he went on to do a couple of albums with RCA Victor. I think one of the albums was called Welcome Home. I'm not sure what the other album was, I can't remember. Was it the GI Blues album? I know that he then went on to film GI Blues with, what's her name? Juliet Prowse. Even there was a bit of a mix-up because she had seen Frank Sinatra for a while. And I think Elvis did have a bit of an affair with Juliet. I think, I don't know this. GI Blues is a massive success, which many say that GI Blues being so successful was a problem, because even though it was like a singing type film, and actually quite a good film, I would say GI Blues is, it did set the mold, it set the standard that Elvis's films that had singing in them financially were much more profitable and had many more people going to the cinema. So unfortunately for Elvis, even though Elvis had this dream to be a credible actor like James Dean and Marlon Brando, these films, because they were so successful, were going to be the way forward, because it just brought in so much money and so many more people were watching them. Unfortunately, he did these type of films for another 10 years. The last one being 1969. Can't remember what that last one was called. Was it called Change of Habit? I can't remember. And we know that Elvis, the second half of the 60s had grown weary and fed up of these cheesy, stupid storylines, these films. And Hal Wallace just wouldn't let it go. Hal Wallace wouldn't change Elvis. And in one of Hal Wallace's interviews, he says he's going to keep Elvis as Elvis Presley, not a fake James Dean or a fake Marlon Brando. And I think that was a mistake. And Hal Wallace, unfortunately, never furthered his career in the movie world. He was actually bad for Elvis. But I can see in the beginning, I understand why Elvis did these films. He wanted to get the families and the kids in the cinemas to watch these films. So wasn't it the best deal that it ever had? It was $1 million a movie, plus he was getting a percentage of the royalties. And I just feel sorry that Elvis had, what's the word? He did have opportunity, but he never took the right opportunities when it comes to those films. And I think this caused a lot of problems for Elvis. And I know that he came out of the 60s at the end there with 68 comeback, which obviously we all know the story, how successful that was. But I almost feel like a whole decade had been wasted with Elvis. You imagine all the things that Elvis could have done in that decade. And I do like a lot of the songs that are in the movies, but they weren't true Elvis, were they? And we get to see Elvis looking at his best, youthful and slim, and singing all different kinds of songs and dancing. We do get to see that, which now is like a time capsule for us, where we can go back and watch Elvis all the way through the 60s, just looking great and looking happy and enjoying it with different co-stars. Obviously, the most famous one is Anne Margaret. But I don't know, I think it's almost like that decade, it didn't fulfill its potential, and all based on profit. You get what I'm saying, don't you guys? So then he comes out of the 60s, and then the new big plan was to hit Las Vegas in this newly built hotel, the International. And Elvis again was very nervous. He wasn't sure just how successful that project, that I think a big part of that was Colonel Tom Parker. And this amazing deal was done where Elvis was going to be paid a fortune, and he was going to do more than one show a day. The first show was the nerve-wracking one where all the celebrities came, and you had people like Sammy Davis Jr. and Cary Grant and many others all turning up for these early shows. Was it late 1969, early 1970? I don't know the actual dates. Oh, and then this is where he had invented the jumpsuit, which had a lot to do with his love of karate. And that jumpsuit just made him look like a king. Everyone become a superhero. And those first shows in those first couple of years, 70, 71, were magnificent. Another comeback for Elvis after the 68 comeback. And I love watching this on YouTube. YouTube's the main thing I use for watching these old shows. And I think Elvis loved it as well. I think Elvis was flying high, feeling confident, feeling great. Unfortunately, there was problems because I think it increased the craving for prescribed medication, because he wanted to be up when he was performing. He wanted to be fully alert, fully awake. So he would take more of these pills to wake him up, to stop any pain, because he had obviously had illnesses and pains. And then he would obviously, because he wanted to get some sleep so he could be full of energy the next day, he would take the pills to go back to sleep. And this was a vicious cycle, a almost never-ending cycle that just got worse and worse. But I do think, you know, right up until, I think, even 71, 72, 73, 74, he did look magnificent. And I think was still enjoying it. I do think after that, and you look at the interviews, he's not well. And watching the last few concerts that were recorded is heart-wrenching. I don't need to speak much about it. Elvis wasn't Elvis anymore. He had been completely drowned in his problem with his health issues, very serious health issues. His problem with prescribed medication, which he felt was okay, but we know it wasn't. Obviously his diet, what he was eating, his failed relationships, and it's just a sad ending. And it's funny because as an Elvis fan, even though I didn't know Elvis, I can put myself there in 1977 and as if I'm in the audience watching him, and I can feel how he felt just by looking at him and his body language and the way the people were around him. You could see they were all very tense and nervous and worried for him. All of the backing singers and the Memphis Mafia, and you can't hide it. And almost in that last filmed footage in 1977, you can actually see that everyone is worried and almost babying him. And Elvis is just trying to shine through a small beam of light and try to keep that voice and perform those songs, give the crowd a show, interacting with the crowd, even though he's very, very unwell. Right to the last, he's really trying to do his best. Thanking the audience, thanking his backing singers and the band members, keeping a real smile on his face. And I think sometimes in that concert, the smile looks forced. It looks like he's doing it for the crowd, doing it for the fans, because we know that Elvis always was very, very grateful to his fans, and he did feel like it was because of the fans that he put on this show. That's it, guys. I'm going to do another one later. Have a great day.